and it was a traffic collision on the A5 near Atherstone, where it was believed that the car had rolled over and it was on its roof. As we arrived, the scene was at the end of a long dual carriageway, very fast section of road. It was complete darkness. Immediately presented with bits of car all over both carriageways. There was a vehicle on its roof. The rear axle had been ripped from the car, and it was probably about 20 metres away, having demolished a garden wall of a house. I immediately made the scene safe with a colleague, stopped the traffic. I radioed up an updated situation report for the control room, and then I went over to the car where a member of the public was standing. I couldn't see the driver, and I asked him where he was. He said he's under the car. What? The driver's under the roof of the car? And that's when I looked under the car, and I could just see the driver's head and shoulders between the carriageway and the roof of the vehicle. Obviously radioed the update through to the control so we could get some more resources there, fire brigade, ambulance, and at that point I scrambled between the roof and the road surface to try and get to the casualty. There was a lot of glass, there was fluid leaking from the car, but you know, I needed to check if he was all right. He was bleeding profusely from a head injury. He was in and out of consciousness, moaning. He was in a bad way. I couldn't actually see where he was trapped from, but the full weight of the car was pressing down on him. Whilst under the car, I could feel the pressure from the roof on my back, and there wasn't much space at all. There was the smell of petrol, which was coming from the ruptured fuel tank, and I was conscious that it could go up, and I shouted out to a colleague that if it did, they were to drag me out from underneath the car. I wasn't sure he could hear me or not, but even just talking to him and being there with him to offer some reassurance, that meant a lot to me when I was trapped in the car when I had my last collision. And just doing what you can, maintaining his airway was the priority until you know, fire brigade got there and the paramedics. I was probably under the car for about 15-20 minutes with him, and the fire brigade were working to raise the car up. Because he was trapped half in and half out the car, I think the consideration was that the sudden release in pressure could do him more damage. But as the fire brigade were lifting the weight of the car off him, I could feel the car tilting and pressing down further on my back. I had a fireman either side of me, holding onto his armpits, me controlling his head, where we physically had to drag him from underneath the car, stabilised him sufficiently to put him onto a spinal board where he was placed in the ambulance. I put my family through an awful lot already over the years with the job and the collisions, and knowing what his family would probably be thinking had he not made it, just knowing that somebody was there with him when he was injured, trapped, you know, that means everything.